Dave, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. Now, can you ask me or can you answer me this question? What's it like being a Seattle sports broadcasting icon?
I never really considered, to be honest with you. But it's very flattering. Thank you very much. I have a great situation. During the off season. I'm born and raised in Philly, lived in New York all my life, and I get to work in Seattle. Still live in New York during the off season, so it's a it's a great existence.
So, looking at your resume, Dave, is incredible. You've done so many different things. Yes, you are the play-by-play guy for the Mariners, but you've also done NFL football, baseball, basketball. Anything like pop out as your favorite, like favorite sport?
Well, my standard and truthful response to that is it's like asking which one of your children do you love more. I mean, they're all great.
Right.
I'm lucky. But Major League Baseball, college baseball. I did the Knicks radio pregame for several years.
Wow.
Still doing college hoops, football. I did Big East football. I did Temple University football on radio, which got me going. Big East football when the Big East had a conference football conference, and then the NFL for 18, 19 years. So, yeah, I've pretty much checked most of my boxes there.
I think hockey's missing.
Quick story. I was just telling somebody about this. 1990, Ed Coleman and I are at FAN. We're doing a midday show. NHL All-Star game was in Philly. We go to Philly. We're at the Spectrum interviewing guys, and terrible Ted Lindsay
Yep.
was one of the guys that we interviewed. And I could see the look on his face about 3 minutes into the interview. It was like, holy crap, how does this black kid know anything about hockey? I'd been a hockey fan since high school, and I knew the history of the original six. I knew about him and Alex Del Vecchio and Gordie Howe. And he's like, and then whoever the producer was, or the guy that was with them, said, "Can you do uh, hockey play-by-play?" I lied and said yes. Sort of a lie. I hadn't really done anything, but I know I could do it. I gave him my card. He says, "All right, we'll get back to you." And I still haven't heard from him, but things have worked out pretty well.
Yes. You know what? Okay, so I'm up here in Canada, and I know for a while Fox had the red puck in hockey during their broadcast so
Yeah.
that Americans can follow that red puck. I don't know why they ever did that because obviously there are Americans that know a lot about hockey, and I'm sure you would rock it as a broadcaster in hockey. So maybe one day you'll get that shot, Mr. Sims.
Hey, you never know. You never know. I don't because uh, I'm not doing talk radio anymore.
Mm.
Um, I don't follow hockey the way I did. I grew up, in high school, became a huge Flyer fan, and I used to go to a lot of games with my brother. And my brother and I'd be about the only two or three black guys in the building, but I'd only go to uh, games to see the original six, as you might remember
Yeah.
when the NHL doubled itself. That the expansion crews were not good at all, but
Yeah.
I still got to see Bobby Hull, Yvonne Cornway, Jean Beliveau, uh, Davy Keon. I mean, you go right down the list. Hal Del Vecchio,
Wow.
Norm Ullman. I remember all these names from them. Oh my God! And the Rangers had Jean Rattel, Roger Bear, uh,
Wow.
Park. I loved all of that stuff. So that was my wheelhouse, man. Matter of fact, in my high school yearbook, they said something about destination hockey announcer.
Wow. That's amazing. So let's dip into that origin story of Mr. Sims here. Like so okay, so you're a sports fan in high school. When did you think, okay, play by play, broadcasting, sports broadcasting, that's the way to go?
Well, I don't know if that's the way to go, but that's where I wanted to go. I was playing, dice baseball games and board games, and before I started playing Little League baseball, we were playing stickball in Philadelphia, or what we and in Philly. I don't think I've not heard too many other places. You take a ball, it's basic. Let's for discussion purpose call it a tennis ball. Cut it in half, and then in the narrow streets of North Philadelphia, you'd hit it, and if you hit it here, it was a single, double, triple, and if you broke a window, you ran like hell. Um, so and then my father was a huge sports fan, and I so lucky in that we lived 20-minute walk, if that, from Connie Mack Stadium where the Phillies played. So 10, 15 games a year. Wilt Chamberlain was playing for the Warriors to go out to West Philly and watch them. And the Eagles were on the Penn campus. So that has been my milieu since 5 years old.
Wow.
And I think the first game I ever saw, football game I ever saw, I think it was the Browns were in town. Jim Brown was there. And it's like Black Jesus coming to town.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, my father worked at the Philadelphia post office, the main post office. And you had a lot of black guys there and a lot of guys who had played at HBCUs. And there was a great Philadelphia. They had a softball league with all of the POs around the city and basketball. And my father rose from being a clerk to a general foreman, white collar job, and he played softball, ran the basketball league. So, I mean, this is my world. So none of this, all of this is, my career's been right on the money following in that tradition. And then, I did some writing in high school. And I said, man, I can do this professionally. I mean, I was a pretty good baseball player, 4-year starter, 3-year starter in football. And I said, geez, I'm not interested in, I have mad respect for chemistry and people in medicine and law and all that kind of stuff, but this is where I need to be. And that's the path I set out, and that's where I am.
Wow. Did anybody come out to you and say, you know what, Davey got something with his broadcasting stuff? Did you get validation early on that, you know what, you're good at this?
Well, I started out as a sports writer, interned 2 years, worked at 7 years at the Daily News in New York,
Wow.
then the largest circulation paper in the country. Validation came when I got the Temple University radio football play-by-play job, and it went well. And after the first year, that was what, 1990, and February 91, I was on ESPN.
Oh my goodness.
So I would say that was pretty validating.
How did you land that gig? I guess someone just spotted one of your broadcasts from ESPN.
Yeah, I had an agent at the time. I'd done some all news TV where he did sports at 15 and 45. I did WNBC Sports Night where I was on. If there were no games on, I was on 7:30 to midnight. I always give Mike Breen, who's basketball Hall of Famer, voice of the NBA, and a guy named Dom Trignali. They were my producers. They were great, two wonderful people. And then when I got to FAN, that's right, 89, it was in the same building, the Kaufman Astoria Studios in Queens. And whose mega show was in that same location in the basement, or actually the second floor? Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was still Bill Cosby.
Wow.
And long story short, my brother-in-law was working there. Bill's right-hand assistant, a guy named Frank Scotty. They were talking. He said, well, that's my brother-in-law. Yeah, bring him down. I go down and meet Frank. Hey, what can I do? He'll meet Bill. Come next week. He'll meet Bill. Anything you need? I said, yeah, I'm hearing that radio job's over at Temple University. Meet Bill, blah, blah, blah. A few days later, hello, Dave. It's Dr. Peter Lear, of course, from Temple University. Mr. Cosby speaks very highly of you. Welcome to the family. Yeah. And so I got the Temple job. And then everything, man, it just exploded from there.
Oh my, okay. Bill Cosby obviously is a very polarizing figure today, but back then,
boy, he was couldn't get any bigger.
Back then, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay. That's a pretty unique story right there. Okay.
Yeah, that's and it's interesting. People, kids are always saying, "How do you get started?" I said, "Well, you got to get lucky too. And you got to have." I think the word you use is validation. I mean, you get somebody that can vouch for you, and if you're being aggressive and getting your name and face and work out there, you can. I'm sure there's stories. They're not maybe a Bill Cosby, but there was somebody of influence who knew somebody. It's the old thing, and I know you know this. It's not always what you know; it's who you know.
Mm-hmm. And you were able to put yourself out there. There's got to be a certain fearlessness, to take a chance on yourself, right?
Yeah, you have to, especially in this business. That's what it was. The other day, I met this kid, a young black kid, Indiana University broadcasting, and he might be teaching. He might be a grad assistant or something. And he said, "Can you speak to my class?" And it was, about 25 guys. Most, I think, all of them were white guys. And we do the Zoom. We set it up. So anybody got any questions? And nobody said anything. I said, "Yo, fellas, if you're looking to get into broadcasting, you cannot be a shrinking violet. All right, you got to speak up. If you got any questions, you better get it out now. I mean, I can leave and like I can say hit that button and I'm gone. All right." So it turned out we had a blast. I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes, something like that. But you can't. You got to be willing to put yourself out there.
Hmm.
And the other thing I always tell them too that I found, and if I could go back in a time machine, obviously, and I remember this woman told me this. She says, "You're not an actor, but you're a performer. Hello." And I think, yeah, I'm not good at like memorizing long, so I think of right off the top of my head. But I said if I had that ability, I'd have tried to be an actor or stand up comic. But this worked out pretty well.
Oh, for sure. So you were just talking about thinking off the top of your head. Let's talk about some of the skills needed to be a play-by-play person. So ad-libbing, what else? What's
Well,
going on?
you need to know, obviously you need to know the game. You need to know the participants. You got to be willing to be out there on the line with no net. And if you make a mistake, don't flip out of it. You don't have time to beat yourself out, up during a 3 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour broadcast. You got to have confidence, and you got to have some presence. You got to be able to, and I tell you what, you got to be in shape too, in certain regards, because, well, certainly before the baseball pitch clock came in, I mean, those games, as you know, could go like 3 hours or something. Like, oh, geez, come on. Um, yeah, so you got to be, and you got to persevere, and you're going to take slings and arrows, and you just got to deal, especially today, with social media being what it is and how pervasive it is. The other thing too, read the greats, read the all timers. I mean, even going back to Billy Shakes. I mean, to know how story construction, um, and then news gathering, that's also important because most of my pregame is being in the clubhouse, on the field, in the batting cage, talking to guys. Hey, what's up? What's going on? How you feeling? Hey, what's working? What's not working? Personal stories, yada yada, that whole thing. So those are some of the ingredients you got to have. Yeah.
So when you're doing the prep, okay, so obviously for baseball, the games are happening every day. So what was a day in the life of your life when you're doing a game day for the Mariners?
We're at home, and I've gotten a lot better at this over the last few years. I would be so wired coming back, and sometimes I couldn't get to bed till 1:30. I try to back that off a little bit now, get more rest. But get up. I'd watch MLB Network, MLB Central highlights, and I love those guys, and I've been on the show a bunch of times. Online, read our beat writers, read the other team's beat writers. Watch Sports Center, work out for half hour to an hour, whatever I feel like. Uh, Maybe go to lunch with a player coach or somebody from the other team, and then get to the ballpark in the window of like 2:30 to 3:45. Then there's the manager. Our guy, Scott Service, usually goes about 3:15, 3:30, sometimes 3:45 if it's the first game of the series. And then, peruse, the clubhouse. If there's anybody I want to see, I want to get some reacts for something that happened last night or something I can ask. I like catchers are really great. And I was a catcher, so I love that. And hey, so and so's pitching today. What am I looking for? That kind of stuff. And then you go to the other clubhouse, talk to the manager. Hey, what's up? And I've been around long enough that most of the managers and coaches and a lot of the players know me now. So I mean, I don't have to. It's not like when I was just starting out and all right, here's my credential. I mean, I can walk in like I own the place. And
Yes.
and the thing that's really cool about being a veteran guy now, like I said, most of the managers know you are. So I don't have to wait for the mass scrum that they have in the dugout. And like Dave Roberts, Joe Madden, Aaron. I mean, I can name almost all of them. And I pop my head in. Hey, come on, sit down. Hey,
I love it.
hey, how you been? Blah, blah, blah. I wind up getting a wealth of information that I can't even use all of it, but I get a feel for what's going on, and that's what I find that the game takes care of itself. But that's the beautiful part because now you got all the things you can plug in. Brandon Hyde, I think of him, the Baltimore manager. Talk to him all the time. Even who was it? Rob Thompson. I met once when he was the Yankees coach, and we played in Philly, and he gave me some. I mean, it's great, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's very fortunate, and things that I've done have built up and are paying off as we, minute by minute.
For sure. So from pregame to like the broadcast booth, game time, do you have like post-it notes on your like, in your booth? Like what
Um,
aids do you have during the
well,
broadcast?
I keep score. I went to Catholic school, so everything's color coded. Uh, you get voluminous notes every day. God knows we've cleared a lot of forests in the world of sports with all
Yep.
the daily notes that go out. It's borderline criminal. Um, so you got that. So I have, as Bill Parcells says,
Yep.
I shop for the groceries and then, I pay it off. And I keep my own little notebook. I obviously have my scorebook. I got the laptop. I've got the iPad. I got this.
Yep.
And the game is easy, man. Again, now I got
Mm.
everything. And if like if you got a bad game and you're telling stories and you want to reference somebody, you can look up something, or you can look up a guy who's coming to the game. These days, you don't have to. It's right at your fingertips, so you don't even have to bother the PR people. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it can be overwhelming. And as
Mhm.
you know, the voluminous stats and the third and fourth and fifth level stats we have in baseball, I try not to get too deep into that
Mhm.
because somebody told me, says Grandma in Bothell, Washington just wants to know what the score, who's hot, who's not, what's this, and why are they not hot, and why how can they stay? So that's
Right.
my. I like to have fun. They throw some,
Yeah.
have some laughs in there, and just enjoy it. I mean, I think my passion for and respect for what these cats do. I mean, we're talking less than 0.5%. You know, we're talking about super elite athletes. Even a 200 hitter is better than any dude walking on the street. Hell, a
Yeah.
150 hitter is better than anybody walking the street. I mean, come on.
So true. So okay, so you just described what's in your booth. Is there a book of catchphrases, Dave Sims catchphrases in that booth?
I mean, I've come up with a couple things I say, but it's not something I sit down. I was more concerned about action verbs.
Mm.
And so as not to repeat myself, the great Mike Emmerich, the Hockey Hall of Famer, it's unbelievable. I think I have a pretty extensive vocabulary. He's unbelievable. And
Mm.
he's the only guy I've ever seen do a hockey game and call every touch and nail every touch, and it doesn't bother you. A lot of guys, Samuelson with the puck, on TV when they're doing TV broadcasts.
Yeah.
And he might be two passes before he IDs the next guy. Mike could just go Samuelson to so and so, and he would use these great verbs, and it was lyrical, and I write down try to keep a implant action verbs, and then in terms of catchphrases, it's all reactionary
Yeah.
for the most part. Boom, I used Boomstick Baby for Nelson Cruz because when he was in Texas, he was called the Boomstick. He comes to Seattle, and I said, Boomstick, Boomstick. And I remember hearing Bob Slick Leonard, who was a good player and a coach in the NBA, and when Reggie Miller would hit a 3-point, he'd go, Boom, baby. So I said, Ooh, there we go, Boomstick. I ran it by my kids, ran it by Nelly, and then boom, I had 4 years of calling all of his home runs. Boomstick, baby, Nelson Cruz. And the other one, I use Hey Now for like a big exclamation point. Um, uh, oh God, I know it's going to do this. There was a Frank Sinatra song that he recorded. It's written in 1932. And anyway, at the back end of the song, the lyric is "Hey now, I'm in love." So I'm a big Sinatra fan. So there, and then on Gary Shandling show, Jeffrey Tambor, who played Hank Kingsley, who was an Ed McMahon kind of guy, he says, "And hey now, here's Gary." So that's where I got the "Hey now" from, and I've been become heavily identified with that, with the viral videos that went nuts, the Hanniger single and the Cal Raleigh home run.
So that's another thing, Mr. Sims, is the fact that you're not just a sports guy. You keep tabs on pop culture and
Oh
you
yeah,
draw stuff and you can incorporate some of that stuff in your performance.
absolutely. I'm not totally up on the hip hop culture. That's But I know just enough to be dangerous. However, as you know, I'll just say a significant portion of that is not airable on family TV. But I see a decent amount of movies. I certainly read up. I know what's going on. I have an idea what's going on. In the arts and whatnot. Music. I tend to favor blues, Motown, hard rock. Those are my musical references. And if I can, one time something happened, and I said, "What was it? The Dustin Hoffman line from Midnight Cowboy? Hey, I'm walking here." I used that a couple of people, and as Bob Costas told me one time, said, "Hey, if two people get it, you win." So you throw out those references. Hopefully, more than two people get it. But you gotta have fun, and baseball's a long season, so you can't. And I've had losing seasons, so
Yes.
you better have a sense of humor, and you move on from there.
Yeah, you gotta have a personality, something to engage, entertain people. Yeah, I get it. So you're talking about the long seasons in baseball. How do you take care of your throat, those pipes, man? Because it's long. Like,
Um,
yeah,
Try
good throat.
to tea over coffee, room temperature water over cold water during games.
Mm,
Um, I get my shots for my allergic rhinitis. Any kind of nasal spray. I mean, and you're going to catch your colds two or three, and you just fight through it. When a doubt, gargle and do what you got to do to get it out. But and then I remember years ago when I started at WNBC, and I was still a little bit unsure about my voice, and they actually put me with a an actress who specialized in voice coaching, and I came away with some exercises that I used to help clear my throat, and
mm,
you know facial exercises and stuff like that to get loose in here. And
right.
I don't do them every day, but every now and then, heck, during the court, between innings or something, I'll get up and stretch and do whatever, just to keep everything loose.
Yeah, like, listen, man, you are like a singer. You're like the Rolling Stones, like you're Barry White. You got to take care of your throat there. So I'm glad there's some sort of regiment that you do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And maybe it took me a long time. I love coffee. I love the jolt that I get from it, but boy, it can dry. The caffeine can dry you out. The tea, non-caffeinated tea, tends not to dry you out at all. So yeah, that's where we are there.
So, okay, play by play. For personally, for me, I think it's the toughest thing to do in sports broadcasting because of the myriad of skills you have to put together. Do you feel like at this point in time you've mastered play by play, or do you feel like there's always something to learn?
I don't think you ever master hardly anything, but you can get real good at it, and you can be high level. And I'm certainly comfortable where I am. I mean, and my whole thing is a fear of failure. My biggest thing, I got like two basketball games this week, on a Saturday and Sunday, one in DC, one in Philly. My whole thing is make sure you're prepared, you got your stuff in front of you, so you can just go on and be you. And as Mr. I'm a name drop again, but as Mr. Scully, Mr. Enberg told me, he says, prepare, have your yellow legal pad for blowout. Yeah, for blowout. And I remember Enberg said, David, where's your legal pad for blowout notes, for things to discuss if the game gets out of hand, that kind of stuff. And then it's just your personality. You tee up your partner, and boom, you go on. And college basketball, it's going to be anywhere from 155 to 205, and you're out and get back on the train. I go home, and you have a blast for 2 hours. It's great. I mean,
My
I
goodness.
love it. And, the TV, I know from doing NFL and radio and baseball to a lesser extent, but you can come out of a radio college hoops, for me, college hoops and doing NFL and radio exhausted, because as a Marty Glickman disciple, kind of just, you want to describe everything. And until you build up your, I don't know, you get your reps in for that season, then I can come out of a game, during a radio, like, TV, I just walk out, have a glass of water and ride home. But boy, radio, like, on the action sports like that, baseball, because it's flowing, it's easy, you don't get that same thing. But damn, what an experience that is.
Because radio is about like you're painting pictures with words, right?
Absolutely. And so what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're smelling, who's moving where, who's wearing what, which direction's the ball going. Obviously, scoring time. Um, it's a impressive medium, and I get to do, with the Mariners. I do prints and mainly TV, but I do a heck of a lot of radio, and it's always interesting changing. And it's funny the way we've been doing it lately. You do a series on radio, you get your momentum, then it breaks, and then you got to go back to TV, and then you get your momentum going, and then you got to go back to radio. So whatever, but that's a small quibble. It's not that big a deal. It's a first world problem.
Right. For
That's how I
sure.
keep it. That's how I keep it in perspective. I'm saying I'm complaining about this. What are you nuts?
Yeah, it's a sweet gig, that's for sure. Dave, let's talk about some like fun times during your career. Any interactions with athletes that were funny or even scary? Were there some guys that early on in your career you were intimidated to approach
Well,
to interview?
it intimidated. That brings back. What year was that? It was my second year. Yes, my second year as an intern at the Philadelphia Inquirer in '74, and they really liked me, and I liked them. And all right, hey kid, the late great Bruce Kiden was a terrific baseball writer. He's taking a blow. Tuesday, you go down with him and you shadow him. Wednesday and Thursday, you got the lead story, which is the Phillies. So I shadow Bruce on Tuesday. Wednesday, I go down and I go to the clubhouse, as following what he did. And I go over to, and I think there weren't a whole lot of guys in the clubhouse at the time, and Steve Carlton was there. And I go over and say hello and introduce myself. And he looked at me like I had four heads and 100 eyes. Nobody told me you don't talk to the starting pitcher the day of the day he's pitching. I didn't know. He gave me a death stare that I remember like it was yesterday. And then flash forward, let's see, that was what, 74. So flash forward to 99. I'm doing the Phillies Sunday pregame show. And maybe it's 2000, it's my second year, because they would have me come over and do maybe a mid-game interview or post-game or something. So I did a pregame, and I introduced, here's Mike Schmidt, and here's a guy that blew my doors in when I was an intern many moons ago, left-hander Steve Carlton. He looked at me like, what? He didn't remember, but I did. I had to get that shot in. I didn't care if anybody got it, but I had to get that shot in. Oh, God. And then everybody else has been, and I'm sure I don't know him. I don't really, I did a couple questions, blah, 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 blah. But, I've had really good conversations and interviewed, Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Wilt, Bill Russell, Kareem, Walton, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Lee Trevino. A lot of guys, a lot of guys. Mike Trout, Ken Griffey Jr. is a friend, so is Trout. I still haven't met Sandy Koufax, one of my all-time heroes. I did meet Don Drysdale. And a lot of the hockey guys I mentioned before, I've met, some of those guys to the Rangers when they won in '94. So good, knock wood, thank God,
Yeah. You must have a serious man cave with all those pictures of those athletes.
My wife will not allow it. I believe me. I can't have this sucker. I can't have this den. Oh my God. As a matter of fact, my oldest son, he said years ago, he told me, hey, hold on to your media credentials. These things, right?
Yep.
I've got like three, might even be four. I think it is four plastic see-through boxes, rectangular boxes I got from the Container Store. And my wife says, "What are you doing with this?" He's going to put it together at some point before I go. So that
Like
that's a lot of years.
does your kids or kid like want to get into the industry as well?
No, they're grown men now. They're 40 and 36.
Okay.
They're doing well. Both jocks had nice high school basketball careers, and yeah, they're doing well.
Awesome. Well, okay. So let's talk about, say there's somebody just starting their career and they want to get into play-by-play TV, play-by-play. What's the route that you recommend they take?
Well, first of all, get your name and face and everything out there. Second of all, these days, in this generation, these last two generations, you can get a lot of reps in by just picking up your phone. In terms of working your voice, being comfortable in front of the camera, being relaxed, breathe. I can't tell you how many times I've told it to myself. I can't begin to tell you how many guys I've told, hey man, I got my gig, do this. I said, don't forget to breathe. The other thing I always say too, hey, as we mentioned earlier, know and know how to use the English language. Be well read. Follow again the classics. Follow people who you respect in the industry. Don't steal what they do, but certainly, you can mold and shape and say, "Well, I like the way he does that. Maybe let me see if I can work that in." That kind of stuff. And just be persistent. And the other thing I would say too, golden rules always in effect. So, and nobody gossips more than people in the media. That may not be true, but that's what I go with. And it's put in the work and be, there's going to be criticism. Do not shrink from it. Learn from it. And be aggressive without being obnoxious and going over the line. And be accountable. Be there early, leave late, and glom on to an elder at your place, because said man or woman probably knows a hell of a lot more than you're ever going to know. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Beautiful tips. Awesome. Dave, this has been great. Where can people get in touch with you or follow you on social media?
Let's see. On X/Twitter at the Dave Sims Show, Instagram at TDSS. That should pretty much cover it. And Facebook, you'll put in Dave Sims, SIMS. You'll see my mug. If you got a fan page, I think the fan page is filled up. No, personal page is filled up, but I have a fan page as well. So Dave Sims, you can find me.
I love it. All right, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Good to be with you. I had a good time. Be well.
What a career this man has had. Tip of the cap to you, sir. Thanks again. I appreciate it. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for checking it out. Please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and podcast. Until next time, take care and have a great one.